But what does it mean? Okay, Saturn has a bit of a a restricting influence. And the first house, first of all, represents our body. So more often than not, people with Saturn in the first house might have like smaller bodies, like slimmer bodies, leaner bodies somehow. Some of them might be shorter, some of them might be long and slim, but there is like either shortening on the side or shortening either slimmer or shorter somehow. Sometimes it might be the height, sometimes it might be the weight that is less of a person. And also Saturn in the first house shows Saturn always brings some delays, and to indicate that the person will usually the development of the maturity of their body and sexual body even sometimes can come a bit later in life. They might, for instance, if they're girls, their period might have come a bit later, or their breast might have grown a bit later, but in most case scenarios, it's usually that the person becomes more confident of themselves after the age of 30 when Saturn matures. Saturn matures at around the age of 28, 29, so after 29, people with Saturn on the ascendant start feeling better about themselves. But before that, because Saturn has a bit of a blocking, suppressing influence, and the first house is yourself, how you see yourself, and how confident you're about yourself. So often people with Saturn in the first house might be feeling quite reticent, quiet, shy while younger in their teenage years, can be a little bit more awkward sometimes. They might be feeling less confident and have a lot of doubts. This can follow them quite often throughout their life, but usually with age, this can be overcome. As I said, after 30, sometimes 35, the person becomes more and more confident and secure. It's usually a problem in the earlier part of life. And sometimes people will try to compensate for this kind of a self-lack and doubt, and this kind of a lowered self-image by bragging a lot. You can see people with Saturn in the first house who are like always posting pictures on Facebook on the best places they've been, the nice foods they've eaten, about their home, or saying how wonderful their life is, how wonderful this is. They can go to this extreme by trying to say that everything is great in their life, compensation. It's called the compensation stage. Or in the other extreme, this can be someone who is always feeling negative about themselves, because people can portray this kind of self-doubt and lack and self-lack that Saturn tends to bring, especially in the earlier first part of life, by either going in both ways. So the other ways, like by, being unlucky, always telling you one story after another with unfortunate events. My leg broke, then my boyfriend left me, and then it's like they feel like the most unlucky people, some of them, And but usually, as I said, this bad karma removes itself more and more after 35, 40 onwards, and these people tend to age more gracefully because Saturn is a planet of old age, and people with Saturn in the first house, they feel much more themselves, much better, more relaxed in their old age. Actually, they're great grannies, they age with more grace, they feel happy in their older age, and I can promise such people feel better about themselves and better in life in later age. And actually Saturn has a persevering quality, so it can almost preserve their features. It can almost like mummifies them, So even in their 50s, 60s, 70s, they can have quite youthful faces, because Saturn also doesn't allow the face to blow out somehow, because Saturn has a restricting influence. So there are some good things here. And Saturn can also rule muscles. So often I've seen people with Saturn on the ascendant have more muscly, or if they start working out, be able to quickly develop nice muscles. And Saturn is also the planet of self-discipline. So such people, even though they're very critical, self-critical towards themselves, they can be they can have enormous self-discipline. They can work out a lot, they can take good care of their body, they can really push themselves hard, because Saturn just pushes you to want more and more and more, Some really great fitness instructors I've seen with Saturn in the first house of the body. So because Saturn is discipline and hard work, and Saturn also the planet of working, what you can turn into work. And the first house is the body, so you can turn your body into a piece of work, or you can turn something physical into your career as well. But such people, often I've seen them, especially after 30, 35, they tend to love to work out because it gives them more sense of control. And Saturn needs to feel a sense of control. Usually when they're younger, they kind of feel a bit too old for their age. For instance, you see a teenager or a young child with Saturn in the first house, and they look like person who is like 20 years older. Not that they look old, that there is like wisdom in their eyes. There is often such people in very young age, they will be given more responsibilities than others. The childhood would be much more full of responsibilities, that they have to take care of others, so they have to work hard, or the parents are much harder on them. So there is like a parental figure that is telling them constantly, maybe undermining them or pushing them harder, judging them more, or they themselves can be a very strict judge of themselves, and it usually continues in later age by the person themselves pushing themselves hard. And in the worst case scenario, it can be someone who always feels bad about themselves, and the best case scenario is someone who pushes and tries to improve and get better and better. And as we said, this more difficult karma, delaying karma of Saturn, improves after 30. And usually these people are late starters in life, because Saturn usually, again, after 30, 35, success does not come in the first part of life for these people. Of course, it's different people, and some people might be successful a bit earlier, but on the general, more than 70%, or more than 65, 70% of people with Saturn in the first house tend to have delays in their blossoming, in their maturation, in their success in life. So sometimes they can feel like cursed. They can feel, oh, nothing goes my way. And such people, they cannot take, this is the path of life, the first house. And when Saturn is there, it's the planet of hard work, they cannot take shortcuts. If they try and take shortcuts, nothing works out. Nothing is given to them like that. Of course, sometimes certain other planets can compensate and make them more lucky, but usually with Saturn in the first house, they work very hard, they achieve everything in their life through their hard work, through their perseverance, through their patience, through their own constancy and not giving up, and endurance, and almost like stubbornness, which Saturn can bring. And actually Saturn, when it's in the signs of Aquarius or Capricorn or Libra, check them out. You'll see them in the chart. If Saturn is in the first house in Aquarius, Libra, or Capricorn, this is the so-called yoga, or combination for long life, first of all, for a lot of health, because it's the ruler. Then Saturn is in a very strong, becomes in those signs. Saturn almost like shines in those signs. So such people usually succeed in life, again a bit delayed, but they succeed a lot in life. They can become quite rich as well. They can become very successful in the second part of life usually. And they health is strong, because the ruler of the first house is in the first house, So they become like an incarnation of the planet Saturn, but the best qualities of the planet Saturn. The worst quality of planet Saturn are delays, negativity, always bitching, moaning, always kind of having less luck. And the best qualities of Saturn are perseverance, hard work, persistency, endurance. And these people with Saturn in those three signs tend to succeed thanks to those qualities exactly in their life. And Saturn shows in their life in the best possible way compared to other people with other signs. Oh, sorry. Okay, then I hope you've seen enough, because this just fell down. But Saturn can also be in, Saturn is more difficult when it's in the sign of Cancer, for instance, in the sign of Aries, Leo, Cancer, Scorpio as well, because these are signs that weaken Saturn. So more of the more negative compensatory stages of Saturn can show, behaviors can show, like person can be overly, cautious, can be overly, but anyway, with Saturn in the first house, person will be cautious. They will not open up quickly. It will take them time before they open, before they can trust you. The ascendant shows, the first house shows how you approach life. And when Saturn is kind of a, judgmental, critical, not very secure planet, it's like the person looks and approaches new events in their life through the veil of this kind of cautiousness, and it takes a while to get to know such a person. It takes a while. It might take a few years for them to trust you, or to open them to open up to them, for them to open up to you. But even though it's a difficult position, even though it indicates you have to work very hard in this lifetime, and especially for the house of Saturn shows where you made mistakes in a previous lifetime, and you have in this life to pay back with. And usually the first house is your path in life. So in a previous lifetime, you just kind of abused your physical body, because the ascendant is the first house is the physical body. So sometimes people with Saturn ascendant might have more pains than other ones, might have more like the body breaking down somehow, or more tears and wears on the physical body. They have to be careful, because Saturn wears down whatever it is. And it's also, they show that in past life they probably didn't take good care of their body, so they might have a tendency, especially in the first part of their life, to proceed in the same ways, but they have to learn to take better care, to exercise, to have self-discipline, to show self-mastery. Saturn is about self-mastery, developing self-mastery in whatever house it is, with a lot of hard work. So these people tend to find their path in life later in life. Their path in life later, they seem to blossom up later. They're like late bloomers, as we say, and they usually life gets better and better for them with life, but they should never take shortcuts, because shortcuts tend to send them back a few steps, or a few, slide down the stairs a few ways. But they are very persevering, hardworking people who can achieve a lot through their own hard work. Thank you.